Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 with Kesha from at textarot. We're going to be discussing basically all things spiritual, how it ties into the tarot, what it's like for us to be readers, and talk about some, client stories, stuff like that. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it. This channel is all about the occult, the paranormal, tarot, all of that stuff, magic. This is what I'm into. And I want to welcome Kesha back to the show. I'm really excited to kind of take a deep dive. Before we started recording, we were talking about the overall energy that's been coming through in a lot of our readings. Kesha, tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. On Instagram, you can find me at Textero. Um, and then on YouTube, you can find me at Wealth of Myself. I'll include links in the description box. And then um, you can always text me by phone at 321-375-9837.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for letting everybody know. We'll definitely drop the links down in the description
hmm
below. If you guys have not gotten a reading from her, you definitely need to. Quality reader, highly recommend her. Her styles are really the same. If you guys are also interested in having a reading with me, I can do them online. I know a lot of my subscribers are out of state and they can't come see me in person, but we can do things online. So
Absolutely.
all of my links are in my bio page. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that stuff. If you want to email me to set something up, it's 7degreesofwisdom, like it is here on the screen, at gmail.com. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in because we were talking just before we got on about the overall energy that is coming through in all of the readings that I've done for myself and for other people. And I think, like, the general consensus, and I've been going through this myself,
hmm
is like I feel like everything is just completely different. It feels a little bit off. You can't quite put your finger on it. It's
hmm
like a lot of people are waking up in mass amounts. I've gotten so many new clients, a few new students even that I'm mentoring, and it's like this overall general feeling of um you know what you need to do, you know where you want to go, your goals are still there, but it's like you can't quite get there. You can't quite figure out exactly what direction that you want to go in. And I can't even like really fully describe what I'm talking about, and it is manifesting in the readings that I'm doing. So
hmm
have you felt this type of energy? Have you felt it feels like you're in a void, like it's just you can't go anywhere, like you're stuck a little bit and things
mm
just don't feel like they used to.
Right. So a few things there. As soon as you mention void and like having these ideas but not knowing how to get there, the first thing that comes to mind is the ultimate void, right? In the
Mhm.
beginning, there was the word in the beginning, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's a blank slate. It's an opportunity for creating.
Mhm.
And I think you're right about people are waking up. I think we went through that long period with the pandemic, right?
Mhm.
And in many respects, that's probably not still over, and certainly there's going to be these after effects that we'll be feeling for years to come. Um, where during that time, people were kind of pulled away from what was normal, and the foundations that they had been living on were ripped away in some cases, or fell away, and they had to redesign life and look at things a little bit differently, and a lot changed. Um, Now that it seems like, okay, we're back to normal, we can go out, and go into stores and people aren't wearing masks and we're not hearing about death constantly and all of that. It seems like we're going back to normal and we're trying to go back to normal.
Mhm.
But the world is progressing, things are moving, and they're always moving forward. And so if the world is moving this way and we're trying to go back this way, there's nowhere to put your foot. There's nowhere to have footing.
Right.
And the idea of this void, I think, comes up because people are realizing there's no connection there. And
Mhm.
so they're like, okay, I'm just going to stop because everything I had planned, life laughed at, that's not happening. What's next? Well, I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. And People got like they spent more time at home, they spent more time online, they got introduced to new things, new concepts. They had more time to spend with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which, that's a tremendous opportunity if you can make use of it, right?
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, so I think, now we're getting this second wave of people being more curious and they're starting to truly explore. So that would make sense that you're getting more clients. You know, in times, I think when the world is chaotic, people want to find answers that will help ground them. And so we see that return to tarot, return to the occult, which is, just that which is secret, which is sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're looking for answers and trying to, integrate this new way of being that they're called into because there's no other choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that disconnect between what was isn't going to be what is. And so they're trying to figure out what that is. And
Mm-hmm.
so they come to us and,
Mm-hmm.
looking for answers. And I mean, us as the broader community. I mean, us
Right.
in particular, but broader community as well. Um, and so, yeah, we've got this tremendous opportunity for creating. And the idea that, I'm seeing that in my world too.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized this past week was that it's not about making plans and trying to execute them in the way that I would have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a blank slate that I'm getting to do it differently from the ground up. So rather than in the past, I might like I'd be working on manifesting something or lining things up, but I would be concerned that what if it doesn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
And part of my process would be to address my concerns and overcome them. And then I feel solid and I'm going to move forward. And then the manifestation can happen because now I'm open to receive, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening now is it's like, no, I've had enough experience at this point that I don't need to go through that worry step to overcome. I can just decide right now that this thing that I'm working to manifest, it is coming. It is in alignment. It is happening. And there are other things that need to happen first for me to be ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the most powerful processes and ideas that I ever work with is right now. Because so much of the angst comes from trying to see the future and be in the future before we get there.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the future is we're not equipped for it until we get there.
Right.
So what I'm feeling is more a sense of rather than rather than going through that worry step of, well, I, I, I'm expecting it to happen this way, but I don't know. And what if it doesn't? It's more like, you know what? Everything else is already lined up and it's brought me to this point. Why don't I just relax and trust that it is unfolding in its right and perfect time?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the difficult part that people are feeling the most angst about is relaxing and trusting. And those
Yeah.
things sound so easy. Oh, relax. Oh, just trust. It'll be fine. But that's really hard when everything about our society and our upbringing is go, go, go. You must make this happen. Everything is against you. So you're the only one that can do it for you. You have to go do it. And it's like, well, all of these teachings, all this time have been about you live in a loving and benevolent universe who is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend so much time doing all of these processes to get us to a point of believing. At some point we gotta just believe.
Right.
And I think,
Exactly.
yeah, it's like just relaxing into that and being like, okay, I'm gonna trust. Because not only at this point, because we've all had enough experiences and it's always worked out, right? Like we always
Mm-hmm.
get to the other side of it and we're like, well, of course it was gonna work. Like, of course it worked out. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't, we're still able to problem solve and figure out a solution.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever is coming, we can already rest in the assurance that I can handle this because it's been good before and I can move from good to greater good. And when it was bad, I found the good in it anyway and I was able
Right.
to move forward. So if we can just go ahead and be in that space, like shake it, like be comfortable in the void and not knowing, and just keep focused on the vision of ourselves and the activity and the life in our mind, and feeding that rather than the fear of, well, I don't know what's going on, and because I can't put my finger on it, and because
Mm-hmm.
I can't, um, because I can't process it in the way that I normally would, then something
Mm-hmm.
must be wrong. But I mean, we've worked our whole lives for this moment, right? And
Right.
everyone that's come before us has worked to help get us to this moment. And all of the teachings have been about trusting the process. What is divine timing? And I
Mm-hmm.
think we're in a space where we've gone beyond teaching, and now it's time to put it into practice. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where it feels unusual because we're not used to absolutely trusting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel a lot of it is like exactly like you said. The old ways of processing things and
Hmm.
doing things is no longer working anymore.
No.
I mean, and I've, come out of a period over the last month where it's like everything I try to do gets blocked.
Hmm.
It just it doesn't it won't work. And I went through it. Like I was like, why is this happening this way? The usual things I do to navigate these
Hmm.
problems is not working out. And I'm
Right.
seeing this play out in other people's lives too. And it took me a minute to figure that out. Like, okay, so this isn't the normal way anymore. What I used to do isn't working.
Hmm.
And everything that's happening is creating such a tower moment
Hmm.
that needs to happen
Hmm.
because the old paradigms, the old dogmas, the old way of doing things just aren't working out anymore. And just like you said, I think it's like such a complete blank slate
Hmm.
that we're not used to that at all. We're used to having something to work with, but now the something isn't there. So I
Yeah.
guess that's why I'm interpreting it as kind of like a void that I can't quite put my finger on. It's because we can't function like we normally would, and it seems to be like ever since the eclipse it
Hmm.
just kind of has been in this really weird void state where everywhere we turn nothing is working out, but in essence we need to realize that this is all happening for a reason, and it's about divine timing and things happening in a certain way, but it's happening also, I noticed, at an accelerated rate, like the
Hmm.
lessons, the instant manifestations, like
Yeah.
all of that stuff is preparing us for what we really need to have in our lives. It feels like the universe is not messing around anymore. Like it's
Yeah,
like,
and
you know,
yeah, that period of like adjustment is kind of left, and like we're just in it and doing it.
mhm,
Something I notice, I've been practicing um, increasing and improving my prosperity consciousness and the ability to manifest money in particular, and the life of my choosing. And I'll go through periods where I'm solid. If I say it, it's done.
mhm,
And then something will happen, like things will change, whatever. And I'll
mhm,
get to a point where I do those same processes and they don't work.
mhm,
And one of the things that I would go back to, because, I read a lot of Catherine Ponder, um, she would mention that's an opportunity, or that's a time of initiation. When the old way of being and doing no longer works, that
mhm,
means you've mastered that level. And now you're being pushed and encouraged to explore something greater. And you're ready for a new set of lessons and a new way of living, doing, and being.
mhm.
And I think we're in that now where um, we can set our sails, in terms of what it is we'd like to achieve and manifest.
Mhm.
Um, but what we do and how we get there is so radically different from what we've done in the past, because in the past it's been all effort based. If I do
Mhm.
these 5 steps to manifestation, then, step 6 is receiving.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas now I think we're going from 1 to 6 instantly, and it's more like I've decided, I'm trusting, I'm doing what I know I need to be doing that's in alignment with me and my constitution, and
Mm-hmm.
things are unfolding under divine order and divine timing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard because it's unknowable, and you know we need that sense of control. If I know what's happening, then I can plan for it, and if it's going to be bad, I can plan for that. But I think we need to accept that we already have the ability to deal with our lives as things happen, good
Mm-hmm.
and bad. And
Yeah.
it's not like we're out of the preparation stage. That was,
Mm-hmm.
that was the Piscean age. That was all preparation, and the age of Aquarius was all about being in it and doing it. And of
Yes.
course, you know, as you move from one age to the next, and I say this as if I've traveled so many ages, but I mean,
Oh,
maybe I have,
we have.
right? But I mean, so as we move from one age to the next, just because the date on the calendar shifted doesn't mean that the energy is different right away. There's going to be this overlap period where we kind of move back and forth because we're not quite sure yet, and it's kind of moving in that
Mm-hmm.
direction, but we're not there. So, yeah, we're what, 20 some 30, like however many years we are into quote the age of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's kind of like we've been prepared for it. We've walked through transition, and now I think we're in it.
Yeah.
And that is going to be different.
Yeah.
And that's what's to embrace and get excited about. Yeah, that's, you know, it's funny because that we're talking about this because on the one hand, I've got a project that's happening and I'm doing all my little steps. One thing has to happen before the next. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking them in order, and it seems to be unfolding perfectly. And I'm so excited about all of that. And then
Mm-hmm.
I've got this other thing over here, and I've been working on it for, I mean, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And shit hasn't moved.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what gives? I'm doing it and I want it to work. I love it. I want this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, all right, I'm going to keep doing it because I love it and I don't want to do anything else. So I'm going to keep doing it. And if it turns into something, great. And if it doesn't, I still enjoy this process, and that's going to be enough. And releasing the idea that, so in the past, I know that I would have thought because this project over here is doing well and this project over here isn't, this isn't working, something's wrong with me. I need to fix me. I need to fix that. There's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, no, um, I'm enjoying it too much for it to be a problem. That's
Yeah.
already the indication that it's working. It just doesn't look like what I think it should look like yet at this stage. So for as long as I am loving it and I'm loving the activity, I keep doing it. And I'll trust that, no effort is ever, you know, no effort is ever done that doesn't come back to you. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's always a return. And
Right.
so maybe the return is not that that process becomes its own wheel and spins itself, but the fact that I'm putting love into this other thing and I'm genuinely enjoying the time I spend in it, that expression of joy radiates outward from me in all things, and maybe it helps all these other things that are happening over here.
Right.
And I think that's difficult to accept as well because we think if if I am putting all of my effort into this thing that's in front of me and I want this, then this needs to fucking perform for me now. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the way it ought to be. We're Americans, for crying out loud.
Right. Right.
But if we talk about being a global citizen, if we talk about expanding our consciousness, then this energy that I put out, it's not going to return to me void. It's going to come back. And so what's important is not that I put it into that particular focus for that particular reason. It's that I enjoy the expression of those feelings when I'm doing it and trust that whatever comes back to me is exactly what I need.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just when you're deep into your spiritual path and everything is going really well, I
Hmm.
don't think that people realize the ebbs and flows. And kind of describe it as like a roller coaster where you go
Sure.
up high and you come down low and you
Hmm.
plateau there for a while and then you come back up. I don't think people really understand the gravity and weight of that, and they think that they're doing something wrong, or if they come up to some roadblocks and things aren't going exactly how they think they should go,
Hmm.
that they get all worked up and get upset and thinking they're not
Right.
meditating enough, or not doing rituals enough, or not reading the right books or anything like that. It's like I've recently come into understanding what those different ebbs and flows are, and those cycles that continually happen.
Hmm.
I have noticed that these cycles are more frequent than they used to be. Like
Hmm.
I said, it just feels like everything is supercharged, like it's speeding up. The process is happening so quickly. And I also kind of wanted to talk about that. Like, when you're ascending,
Hmm.
I mean, here recently, it's like when you're ascending to a certain point, you have those moments where everything gets really crappy
Hmm.
for a while and it
Yeah.
stays there before something big is about to happen.
Sure.
And see,
That's how you know you're close. Yeah.
right, intellectually, I know what's going on, but it doesn't change the fact that it still hurts and that you have to go through those emotional ups and downs, and
Uh-huh.
maybe even go through like a mini like dark night of the soul type thing that
Hmm.
that's happening. And I just want to let people know that that's completely normal, that it happens. I had to learn the hard way what was happening to me as I was learning and growing and leveling
Hmm.
up and ascending. So don't fret. Don't worry that, oh gosh, I've been stuck here for so long. I don't know if this is going to get any better. What else is coming next? What's going to happen? It's like I had to figure out that the hard way, because I thought, why when things don't go right and things just completely crumble around you, it's not because you've done something wrong or you're not doing something right. It's because you're clearing the way, going back to the blank slate.
Hmm.
And these blank slates are on an unprecedented level now. So it feels even worse and it's extremely painful to go through. But I know, like, that all of this is happening for a reason. This is some kind of divine timing, and
Hmm.
that everything's going to work out the way it should be. And the reason why what I'm trying to do isn't working out is because it's not the right thing for me.
Or it's
And
not the
that
right
is
time.
right.
And
And that's
that's,
really hard to work through, especially on an emotional level when you're trying to heal and do shadow work and do all these things.
yeah.
And it sends you down this downward spiral. And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing it play out for myself, and I'm seeing that play out for a lot of clients that I read for as well.
Yeah. I think that's where, there's value in stopping. There's
Mm-hmm.
value in just letting it go. I
Mm-hmm.
think because we get so focused on what do I need to do now? What work do I need to do? What healing do I need to do? What do I need to clear? What do I need to? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
peace,
Yes.
stop for just a moment. Let yourself breathe
Mm-hmm.
because especially if you're doing shadow work, you're, healing this, you're getting energy treatments, so you're doing Reiki, you're doing crystal light. I mean, all these things, you're constantly in the motion of trying to heal something and thinking something's wrong, because that's why you go to the next process and the next healer and the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, when do you ever stop and let what you've done integrate?
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of a Mercury retrograde, and thank God we have them 4 times a year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you can really embrace this period of, okay, I'm going to stop trying to move forward. I'm going to relax for a minute, let things settle, and let them reveal themselves. Like, it's hard sometimes when you're learning, you're constantly like in the book and you're taking tests and you're taking notes and you're always in class and always in lectures. It feels like that's a constant process. But when you put the books away, like, and just let your mind process all that you've taken in, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I've learned quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so there has to be that ebb and flow. And when you started mentioning that, the first thing that came to mind was, dude, who would go to the beach if there weren't any waves? Who would go to the beach if it
Mm-hmm.
was always flat?
Yeah.
you know? And what would we lose in terms of cycles of, the universe if the tides didn't move in and out, if waves didn't come ashore and then recede? Like there is a reason it's always ebb and flow.
Mhm.
And, the receding in the quiet time is just as important as that forward motion. And I
Yeah.
think because we live in such a, you know, top dog, survival of the fittest consumerist society where,
Mhm.
the only measure of productivity is how much you grow
Mhm.
and how much you produce, you lose sight of the fact that in order for a seed to grow, it had to have been covered by dirt. And there was a
Mhm.
period in time where we didn't see any activity, you
Yeah, it was
know?
germinating.
Yeah, I mean, so much of what we're talking about, like I am living, like was my morning today.
Mhm.
I've got these Z plants. So I have one over here in the corner, and then
Mhm.
when I planted this one, um, three little pieces broke off, and I was like, well, I'll just put them in a pot and see what happens. They're slow growing anyway, and maybe my apartment isn't the most plant friendly, but I'm doing what I can and I send them love. So the
Mhm.
little one with the three, it hasn't produced a new shoot in 2.5, 3 years.
Mhm.
And about 2 months ago, I started talking to it. I'm like, what do you need? Because I mean, you're living and you're hanging on, but you're not producing. So, I mean, if this is all you're going to do for me, that's great. But if you're going to do more, like, what can I do to help?
Mhm.
And the guidance I got was, give me fresh soil, please. And I said, okay, I got you. So I repotted it with fresh soil. It's been about 2 months now since I did that, and no growth, nothing's happening. Today I walked over and looked at it, started talking to it, and I saw a little shoot just above the soil line. And I was like, no way, here, look at you. All right, you're
Yeah.
coming up. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait till. And I'm like, would you like a little water? Because I think it's been I talk to my plants like I talk to the
Mhm.
people, right?
Well, hey, you got to. They're
I
living beings
mean,
too.
yeah, so I'm talking to it and I'm like, just a little water. I'm not going to give you too much because I know I have a problem with that. And I get my and I'm like, I'm going to give you good water. I'm going to give you the sea moss water. And I'm so excited. I've prepared the water and I go to pour it in and I look and there's a second little shoot that's also
Oh.
just got its head just above the soil. And I'm like, dude, give it what it needs, what it asks for.
Mhm.
Leave it alone and give it time and it will produce. And if
Yeah.
that's not a lesson for me and these other little projects that I'm working on,
Mhm.
like that's the lesson. And when I was in seminary, a lot of, our homework would be to we worked with a lot with the 15 universal laws.
Mhm.
And so the homework would be to give three examples of the universal laws showing up in your world. And it was a way to, and we do this throughout the 5 years of
Mhm.
seminary. So you get used to seeing everything in your world as a reflection of spirit and how that ties into, everything is connected. So one thing is a symbol for something else, and, they're all related and everything has something to teach you. And, I've gotten used to that mindset. So when I look at what's happened with this little plant, I'm like, is that not me?
Mhm.
Like I went through, oh my God, I am just now coming out of 7.5, almost 8 years of pretty extreme financial embarrassment.
Mhm.
Um, and in that I was a girl that always had money,
Mhm.
did crazy shit because I had money. And then fucking A, one day I didn't have money.
Yeah.
And I didn't have money so bad I got evicted from my apartment.
Mhm.
I had to move in with people. I faced car repossession on the regular and beat that
Mhm.
shit back 5 times.
Mhm.
I had to move in with my mom. Like,
Yeah.
craziness for someone of my age, my stature, my ability, my education, my, whatever.
Yeah.
And I know that everybody looked at me, and I did too, and it was like, you fucking failure. How could
Mhm.
it be that with all of your insights and inputs and all of the the opportunities and the people that you've had access to, you are living this nonsense. And I had to sit with myself for a really long time and be like, you know what? I asked for something greater. Greater is not going to come and be sustainable and long term if the foundation isn't right. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe, yeah, it was great that I had all that money and all those experiences and did those things and was that person. But the vision I have for myself moving forward is different. And so if it means that, like you said, a tower moment where everything
Mm-hmm.
falls away,
Mm-hmm.
then that's going to be required. And during that period, I had all of my books, in storage because I didn't have, my own
Mm-hmm.
place. And I just kept out like maybe four or five of the things that I thought I absolutely needed, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest of it was in storage. So normally when I encounter a problem, I run to one of my books. I'm like, all right, what are we talking about today? Like, how are we going to fix this?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that. So I had to rely on the wisdom within, what I remembered of what I had read,
Mm-hmm.
what I knew within myself, what I was being called to do, and I had to rely on myself to get there. And that was interesting in that when I finally was in a position to get my own apartment and have all of my things back, I was able to let go of 11 boxes worth of books because I didn't need the book anymore because I had lived the experience.
Mm-hmm.
All of that wisdom was within me.
Yeah.
And so the books were just there, and they weren't feeding me. And I'm like, I could have the ego about me that I must have all the books, I must have all the shelves full, and
Mm-hmm.
this is only part of it. There was stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, no, I don't need all that. And so I was able to let it go. And now I'm in this whole new cycle where the job that got me the apartment that got me through the pandemic, like that has now fallen away, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this new thing. And the money that I need to move forward hasn't shown up yet. And normally that would freak me the fuck out. But
Yeah.
right now it's like, no, I have done all the work.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I was leaving behind, because we talk about the eclipses, all of this
Mm-hmm.
happened during the eclipse season.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I knew for sure that I was leaving behind was that hard work a day consciousness. And it was like, I'm not just leaving behind this job, I'm leaving behind everything that job represents, that I have to have these things in order this way, and life must look like this. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well, if I make that declaration that that's what I'm looking to leave behind, it makes sense that what I'm moving into is going to look different.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's going to be that transition period where it's like I'm kind of floating in the void, like because what's next hasn't presented itself yet in its final form, right? I haven't cashed that
Right.
check yet. But going back to this idea of practicing being in the now,
Mm-hmm.
when I say that, what that looks like for me is, all right, so my rent is going to be due, and I don't have a plan for that for the month of August.
Mm-hmm.
But is today August? No, today is June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not what's happening in August isn't a concern today. What I need to focus on is what is right in front of me, what I have right now. And so right now, are all of my bills paid? Yes. Do I have money in my bank account? Yes. Do I have food in my refrigerator? Yes. Do I have gas in my car? Yes. Is my car working perfectly? Yes. So what for what I need right this minute, do I have everything I need? Yes. Is everything perfect? Yes. Do I have so much to be grateful for? Yes. Can I be grateful for that? Yes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm saying yes to all of those things, and I realize that in this moment, everything is fine. And in fact, it's better than fine. It's perfect because I have more than what I need, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hungry in this moment, and I have plenty of food in the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is this good feeling that I generate in this moment that sets up that future act, right?
Yeah.
It's what puts me in a position. So if I were to spend this time instead worrying about the 1st of August, then I'm spinning out a current of worry.
Right.
right? And how helpful is that going to be? It's not. So
Yeah.
I'm better off looking at, okay, right now, am I okay? Yeah. Am I better than okay? Fucking yeah.
Mhm.
Like I can get excited about that. And because I have this natural excitement, you better believe that carries into everything else I'm doing. And that's what, I mean, that's how I was feeling the day that I sent you that text
Mhm.
or that note in Instagram that when you like my videos, it makes me feel like I'm one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
And I was in this same kind of mood. Like I was just super happy about everything because I'm like, I look around and everything is good. And you felt that excitement, you felt that energy, and it encouraged
Mhm.
you to respond. And from that moment, we kept talking and we decided to
Mhm.
have a podcast. We had the
Yep.
first one and felt the energy and it was great. And here we are
Mhm.
again. And I can't tell you, like, for the last like couple of days when I knew this was coming, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I get to be on a podcast. Like, oh my God. And
Mhm.
I can't, well, I mean, I can't contain it, right? Like, and
Yeah.
there's no reason to. And what like, I had to go to the mall like 3 days in a row, 2 days in a row, whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm not doing anything but walking, but clearly I'm walking with something because people are looking at me, and
Mhm.
the people that are helping me are incredibly helpful when, you know, people that work in a retail don't really have to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
But and
Yep.
I think I am not, I am not special. I mean, I'm certainly unique and certainly quite special, yes.
Mhm.
But I am not special in that, dude, y'all can do this too. You can have this too.
Mhm.
And I think I think it's like being okay with the unknown. It's trusting that the void is of creation and what do we want to create today? You know?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I just put up a video, I think last week. It's a La Chi meditation.
Mhm.
And with La Chi, it's you're using your hands and you're thinking about something you want to manifest or the way you want things to be, and you're putting those thoughts into this ball of energy that you're molding.
Mhm.
And you're just sitting quietly and you're molding this energy back and forth. And you sit and you do it maybe 20, 30 minutes, however long, however much time you have. And then you let it wash over you, or you put it into your solar, and then let it just radiate out and let it, let's see what happens. And I love that I made myself do that video because I've got to live on that energy, and I'm hoping that for everyone that did it with me or does the video,
Mhm.
they get to experience the same thing. But that's why we show up and teach, because we
Yes.
know that we are not singular. I got,
Yeah.
oh my God, talk about being
Mhm.
stupid because you know too much. I was at a market over the weekend, and this woman, she has some really cool t-shirts, and they were sweet. They said they were like had these rhinestones all over them, and they said like faith and like God's girl, and like they were really cute and they were sweet.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about, like, I normally wouldn't wear something like that because it invites conversations that I might not want to have,
Right.
but whatever, they were cute. I was thinking about it, and I was also I'm a shopkeep, in my
Mhm.
heart. And
Yeah.
so I'm wondering, like, how's business? How you doing today? Like, I'm seeing a little more. I had been in another market earlier, and I was seeing that this was more lively. So I was talking to her about that. And and then she goes, "Well, have you accepted the Lord Jesus Christ, or have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?" And and like I said, being stupid because you know too much. I know better than to engage when somebody asks
Mhm.
me that question because you know what's coming. But no,
Yep.
I was feeling good. I was feeling, I was feeling great. And I said, well, not as my Lord and Savior, but certainly as my master, certainly as a master teacher. And I say that with love. And I say that with
Mhm.
genuine, like, she asked me a question. I'm giving her a genuine and loving response.
Right.
And she's like, but in the scripture it says he is the only begotten son. And I said, well, that's a mistranslation from the Aramaic, and the idiom, it's not only begotten, or not, it's not only begotten, it's first begotten, meaning one of many. He's a teacher, and he himself says he's a pattern for men to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if she had been listening to me because she wanted to have a conversation, she might have stopped there, because if I come at you and say, well, the Aramaic translation, like, who the fuck knows
Yeah.
what Aramaic is? And if I'm
Right.
telling you the Aramaic, like, obviously I know something. I'm not just somebody off the street.
Yeah.
But no, she wants to go back to scripture and teach, and I'm just like, okay. And at that point, the hand was, you have gone too far,
Mm-hmm.
and you asked a question for which you are not interested in listening.
Yeah.
I mean, and in that moment, like, I would have been okay to have an informed conversation, and I would have been opening to hearing something new, but
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't giving me something new. She was
Yeah.
trying to fucking convert me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what about me says I need converting? Do you not recognize that I'm already God's radiance?
Yeah.
Like, what else would you need to see?
Yeah.
It's been, speaking of wild, I went to a metaphysical expo last
Mm-hmm.
weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Girl, I already know.
you know what it's like when you're like, so you've been in this for a while.
Yep.
You're a teacher. You have been a student forever, and you're a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and you stand up for being a channel,
Mm-hmm.
and you're accepting, and you're walking through the spaces without judgment, and you've got all of your power about you. And it's not like you put on the glamour that day, right? It's just
Right.
that you are who you are, and you're walking through. Well, I showed up to this metaphysical expo, and I swear to God, I barely did yoga that morning. I for sure as shit did not sit and meditate. Like, I was not I was not like trying to put on all the power and all the layers so that they
Yeah.
would recognize. I just showed up. Like, I was just being me.
Yeah.
But I already
Right.
know that being me is already at this level, because I mean, I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And I got so many people. Like, part of it, there's this weird thing that happens with metaphysics and sales, right? And maybe one day we talk about that,
Yeah.
because that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they've got their wares to sell, and they've got their programs to hawk, and all of that's great. Like, I I think it's great when someone has identified something and they want to put themselves and their product out to the public.
Mm-hmm.
I always support that, and that's why I go to these
Mm-hmm.
things. But for me to walk up in all the power and radiance that I exude, and for them to tell me that I see evil about you, blah blah blah. I see these spirits about you, and like, they see these things that only they can fix, and I'm like, there's no possible way that you can see something attached to me that I have not invited. It's just not
Uh-huh.
and I mean, for me, that's an indication of like where they are and what they're about.
Right.
But
Frustrating.
come on.
Frustrating. Yeah.
That it might as well have been somebody asking, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Because
Exactly.
it's the same thing, but people think because one is talking about Christian, it must be right. And the worst is when somebody says to you, well, I'm a good Christian. That's maybe
Yeah.
a whole nother topic too, but I mean, and I and let me just say to the people who are watching, this is not me Christian bashing, not in the least,
No.
because
No, we're
those
not.
who
That's not.
no,
Yeah.
no, because those who love and practice and who follow the teachings, you're for real, your light is seen, and I respect it. What I'm talking about is when someone uses their little bit of knowledge as power and a bludgeon against someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens in the Christian space, and it happens in the occult metaphysical space.
Yes, it
And
does.
that's where you need to have your protection and veil around you, and you need
Hmm.
to be sure of your teachings and not let your judgment carry you too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think because of that, those type of situations, it's really hard to not get lumped in as, an occultist myself. I tell people I'm an occultist. Well, occult means hidden. It means I
yes.
study the hidden knowledge, the
Hmm.
secret knowledge. And it's secret for a reason, because people can't they don't fully understand
Right.
what that really is. And then it sucks that we get lumped in and under the umbrella
Hmm.
of people of that stature, and
Yeah.
people that aren't at that same level. They don't really understand. There's nothing more frustrating than having that happen, and then say somebody goes to that, they're waking up on their spiritual path, they're brand new, they're trying to check everything out, and then they walk into that,
Hmm.
right? And it's like, it's frustrating to see people that operate with their clients in that way and tell them all these things that they have no idea what they're talking about. They're usually, their radar is way off.
Hmm.
And
And it's self-serving radar.
yes, yes. Like, if you're that power enough to tell somebody that, oh, you have this thing attached to you. No, I don't. I don't have nothing attached to me. This is not what's going on here. Like, you're just they're operating solely from ego, and it sucks, because a lot of people in the spiritual community, there's so much of that going around and so
Hmm.
much misinformation, and it's like weeding through the shit and trying to help people, as I'm teaching, trying to teach them
Hmm.
the right way to look at things, the right perspective, and to how to use your discernment on
Discernment,
what's
that's the word. Like,
right.
you have to have as much discernment in metaphysical spaces as you
Mm-hmm.
do in regular world,
Yep.
if not more so, because yeah, people that are working with energies, they've got, it's just too, it's too exciting,
Yeah.
and it can pull you in too many different directions and leave you stranded nowhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, discernment is huge.
Yeah. A lot of gatekeeping out there. A lot of things that, and a lot of things get said and taken out of context
Hmm.
when somebody's new to the game,
Yeah.
and they will take things like literally instead of symbolically, like it's meant to be taught, or just breaking through the whole ego to begin with is the hardest part, and the first step in the acceptance of what that is, and trying to really understand the role that ego plays on your spiritual path. And people talk about death of the ego all the time, and starting over and realizing what's really going on. It's 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 really hard to explain to people when they're first starting out that you know they don't have a foundational knowledge to begin with. They're usually coming directly out of some kind of traditional religion. They don't understand a lot of the terms. Like, I find myself kind of digressing a bit to meet them at the level that they're at, to try to
Hmm.
explain to them what these things are. And I don't think people realize that there is a very long process to spiritual enlightenment and ascension. And
Hmm.
so they will take things at face value. They will listen to the wrong things. And I tried to explain, like, I had a conversation with a student yesterday, and he's like, hey, he's pretty much new to the game and everything. He's like, hey, so I want, what are some book recommendations? And I was like, okay, well, what subjects do you want to learn about? And he's like, well, I don't know, just anything that you think will be beneficial to me. So I picked him out some books, and I was like, hey, come by. come by and I will, I'll give these to you, and we can discuss, a few things, and this will give you some playing room so that you can study and learn a little bit more. And then I made a comment to him. I said, eventually you're going to get, and I probably said it to him too soon. And I, it's hard for me not to kind of go there. Sometimes I don't hold back and I will say something to someone that completely just goes, and their brain just like pops out. And I said, so you can read all of these, but eventually they're not going to mean anything to you. And he was like, what? So you're saying, he goes, so you're saying, so you're saying that it's pointless for me to read these books? And I said, yeah. I said, no.
No, it's not pointless, but there's a point where this shit doesn't work and a book is not going to help you.
Right? I was trying to explain to him that, I was trying to explain to him that all these things that you're going to learn, you are eventually going to come to a point. You're going to come to a plateau where you don't believe these things anymore. Everything that you thought that you thought you knew, it is no longer. Mm-hmm. And that you will start to rebuild yourself over and over and over again. And
but that's how you know you're doing it right? Like that's,
yes,
man, I mean, and that's a hard one. When your world falls apart, for people to, I know like when I first started, like when things started to fall apart, somebody wanted to like cheer and clap, and I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? My life is over. Like, I just got a big, but it's like, no, you can't get there from here and have everything that's here be the same. Like, and that's not even what you want. I mean, you want the comfort of what being here looks like, but being here right now is uncomfortable, which is what's pushing you to go there. And so it's gonna get uncomfortable, and it takes a level of, I don't know, strength for sure, some sort of trust and faith and awareness to be like, this shit sucks. All right, bring me more. Like, we're like, it's and it's a wild and crazy place to be in, but I don't think we would do it any differently. I really, I mean, when I look back over, that 7 years of nonsense, I wouldn't, I would choose I wouldn't choose it differently because it gave me what I needed to be who I am right now.
Right.
And even though I'm not perfected, I'm not required to be perfected in this moment, but I'm certainly damn good enough.
Yeah.
And how long is it taken to be able to say, I'm enough?
Yeah.
Like, and so, yeah, to be able to rejoice when things fall apart and to know, like, that's to your benefit. It's so crazy because it's paradoxical and it makes it seem, as they say, delulu.
Yeah.
But that's what it's going to look like until everything comes together, and then we're comfortable with where we are, and then a new set of desires is going to arise, and we're going to push ourselves to go further, and we'll get another set of books, and we'll go on a different kind of retreat, and all of that will be good. And at some point, we're going to stand up and be a teacher for other people. And I think that's what's so beautiful about all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love reading tarot cards. But these last couple of days, I feel like I'm not really good at this. And I know that's silly because I know that's not true. But then I look at some of the other people that I follow and I'm like, I want to read like that. And it's not that I want their skill and their gift. It's that I want more of mine. And I'm not sure how I get that. If I need to, like, I'm not sure where that's going to come from. But because I know that I want it, I know that something's going to change and I'll be doing something differently and I will get there. Because I
Mm-hmm.
just want to know it better. I want to know it deeper and basically I want to be able to come up with everybody else's insights, which I know
Mm-hmm.
sounds ridiculous because we
Mm-hmm.
all read differently because we have different backgrounds and we have different insights and we're all different prisms of the same channel. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yes, my color of magenta is going to look slightly different from your color of purple.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all beautiful, they're all required. So it's not like I should down my skill and gift because I appreciate someone else's, but really it's just my desire to be a brighter color magenta, and just see
Yeah.
how much more celestial I can make this shit. Like, let's
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I I kind of shocked like my friend circle that, I work with at the shop, and I was talking to her a few months back, and I said, "You know what? I was like, I kind of want to pull away from reading tarot." And she looked at me and she goes, "What?" And I was like, "Well, it's not that I want to pull away from it. It's just that I need to focus my energy somewhere else.
Mhm.
Like it needs to be." And I'm bringing this up not that I'm quitting tarot or anything. It just, when you reach certain plateaus in your life, the things that you're doing,
Mhm.
eventually to learn and grow more, you have to switch up your approach, the things that you're doing to gain new perspectives.
Yeah.
And to the normal person, they're like, "What? Why are you changing? It's working out. It's fine. Like everything. Why would you want to do that?" And it's like, "Well, because, I want to focus more on my past life regressions. That to me right now, I'm super passionate about that, and that's where I'm getting, the most enjoyment, the most healing for the clients. The knowledge that I've been gaining from that is off the charts."
Mm.
And so to me, that's been my focus. And then also teaching classes has been, I want to dive deeper into that. So to speak on your point, it's like you you can't keep doing things the same old way. You can only do that for so long. It's not sustainable. You have to learn and grow and progress, you have to switch things up, and you
Mhm.
have to change them. And I don't think people realize that, like, when you start feeling that way, it's not because you're giving something up. It's because you, on a soul level,
You're gaining.
you're gaining, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I increase my path? How can I learn and grow at a higher rate? You have to let things fall away.
Yeah.
Even if it seems painful, even if it seems like it's the wrong thing to do, the reason why you're feeling that way is because on the soul level, you know that it's time for you to kind of let go and move on and do
Mhm.
this. For me, it's like I've already been there, done that with that. And I do help a lot of people with that. And I do really, enjoy it, and it's been, really great for me. But it's like at the same time, I'm kind of getting like past that point where it's like I've hit a plateau of learning when it comes to tarot,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um and I me for me personally, I've gotten everything out of it for
Mhm.
me
Mhm.
that I can now move on and focus my energy in a different avenue or a different frequency, a different waveform, a different timeline. Like
Mhm.
it's time for me, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm giving it up or I don't like it anymore. It's not anything like that. It's just like at some point you have to kind of switch things up so that you can really appreciate what you've done before and all
Yeah.
the work that it took you to get there to that point.
Mhm.
It's like it's a necessary evil. So,
Well, it's the
you
pruning for
know,
growth, right? Like
yes.
you have to if you want a vine to produce heavy bunches of luscious grapes,
Hmm.
then you're going to have to prune it really hard when it's young.
Hmm.
And that pruning's important. And I think, you know, yeah, we're so, we're so multidimensional, but we
Hmm.
can't express and access all of those dimensions all at once. Otherwise, we would be flat, but we're multidimensional. And
Hmm.
so it makes sense that if you wanted to explore those other facets of self that you would lessen some of the attention you're giving to tarot to look more at,
Mhm.
past life regression. Um,
Mhm.
and that's only normal. Like we don't do nobody's going to eat spaghetti, every day for 30 years. Like they're
Mhm.
they're going to have a salad at some point.
Yeah.
There's got to be a steak in there somewhere. And
Mhm.
so we need that variety. And it doesn't mean we love spaghetti any the less. It just
Mhm.
means that, we're just going to explore something a little bit different. And so, yeah, I think that's great. And you may
Yeah.
find that it's the work that you did in tarot that
Mhm.
helps better inform your past regression work, or
Oh
that
yeah.
leads you into something else, or there's a combination of the two that could only come together through you because of what you've done before. And I
Yes.
think for you to deny that impulse, or to not leave it behind, not to leave one thing behind and move into the other, denies us of your greater gifts, which we've yet to experience because you haven't gotten to move into them yet. So I think
Mhm.
that's great. I mean, I don't I spent time at a gym show a couple weeks ago, but it's been an uncountable number of years since I've made jewelry.
Mhm.
But I'm not any less of a jeweler. I just don't make jewelry every day anymore.
Mhm.
It's nothing that you lose. It's just it gets transformed and transmuted and expressed differently. I mean, I'm just as creative.
Mhm.
I'm just not making jewelry, or I'm
Yeah.
making house, house talismans as opposed to talismans for the body. It's just
Mhm.
a little bit different. So yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
for that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to support your GoFundMe with
Mhm.
your school, because that's obviously a new part of self that's looking to be revealed and to grow.
Mhm.
And I think that we get to a point when we've amassed so much wisdom on our own that it's natural to want to share, and people recognize that we have wisdom and they come to us anyway.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you would want to teach and to spread that wisdom greater. So
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for mentioning that and for your support. I really appreciate it. It's been a dream of mine for quite some time to have my own school and to have a place where people can go and meet and learn and feel comfortable talking about these things, especially like in the area that I live in. It's like it's very Bible Belt
Hmm.
South. It's not deep South, but it's the South, Bible Belt, and it's like I have so many people that come to me and they're like, "Well, where do I start? Where do I go?" It's like I want to give people that community where
Hmm.
they can feel comfortable to learn and ask questions and have a place for them to go so that they can kind of spread their wings a little bit and really learn how to take a deep dive into these things, because when you're starting out you have to have a foundational knowledge of several different things before you can truly understand the bigger stuff, the
Yeah,
stuff that's harder to wrap your mind around. And so to me, it's very important, and that's my teaching style. And some people aren't very receptive to my teaching style, and I understand that.
that's okay.
It's it's because I always teach from a point of view of they know nothing, right? And I know that gets frustrating for some of the more advanced people, but there's a reason why I teach the way that I do, is
Look, there's
because
nothing more advanced than the basics. And
right,
even people that know, a refresher when you know is an opportunity for you to approach it from a different perspective.
right,
And yeah, that's it's actually not very advanced to be upset that you're more advanced than the material that you're covering,
right,
because if you're truly advanced, you recognize the value in starting at the beginning. There's
exactly.
and I think people they don't recognize that our thoughts and our paying attention isn't constant. Our
Mm-hmm.
minds cycle out every 45 seconds or something crazy, like, so there are
Yeah,
little things that we miss.
yeah,
And you know that's why it's, if you are so advanced and you go back and you review something that is foundational, it's like, oh, I didn't realize I knew that. But yeah, I know that. Oh, but now I know that, and you know it deeper. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's value in that. And so
Yeah,
um
and that's why
I
I
think
do it that
I
way.
think that's great that you start from the beginning. And besides that, when people are coming into, your space for learning and they say, "Oh, I already have blah 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 background." If you accept that knowledge as they say it is, that's an assumption on both of your parts that can lead to a breakdown later on.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because somebody says, "Oh, I know about X topic," and you start to cover it, um, they may not realize that they have a slight gap in knowledge. That
Mm-hmm.
could be precisely the reason that they've been drawn to study with you to begin with.
Yeah.
And you miss that opportunity if you just take it at face value. Oh, I've already progressed and already done this. I mean, um, my personal experience, I studied Russian in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to college, I went to Middlebury College to study Russian. And I had enough credits for sophomore standing, but I'm like, no, I'm starting as a freshman. I'm taking Russian 101. And when I first got to college, people would ask me like, why would you do that? Like you should start level two. I'm like, look, Middlebury is the top country top college in the country for the study of Russian. Why would I come here and skip a year
Mm-hmm.
when the reason that they're able to be the top country is because they lay this foundation? Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to come here and do their system. Yeah, I come with a vocabulary and a sense of grammar and some experiences, but that's only to my benefit. And I have no problem starting at the beginning. And I think it's one of the reasons why, even though I don't speak Russian daily, I'm still fluent. Like I still talk
Mm-hmm.
to my friends, and
Mm-hmm.
I sent them a note yesterday, a voice note, and I laughed because I said I was trying to say it's Monday going on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I said it's Monday going on breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
which made me laugh because that sounds so silly, but it's funny. And it's like I can make jokes and laugh at myself in another language only because I made the decision to start at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a foundation that is simply unshakable. But if I had gone in thinking, oh, I've had 4 years already, I'll just start at, second year, I might be more wobbly than's to be expected after, not practicing daily for 20 years. Like, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you start at the beginning with people. And I hope that people will be accepting of starting at the beginning with you
Mm-hmm.
because that's their opportunity to fill in any gaps they might not know they have
Mm-hmm.
and to shore up a foundation that's obviously going to be important for them, else they wouldn't be coming to study with you anyway.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
there's value in that.
Yeah. I mean, I always will go back and rewatch things or reread books that I read
Hmm.
years ago. And
Yes.
every time you
Yes.
see it from a completely different perspective and understand it on a level that you didn't realize you were learning it on. Like, and revisiting things that you
Hmm.
thought you knew, it always turns out to be way different than you expected, and you catch things that you missed the first time. And I've always been a proponent of that. I always go back and reread things and try to learn things again from the beginning. And I've found that hearing different people's perspectives on something that I thought I knew about actually
Hmm.
will get me to see it in a completely different way that I needed to see it, and then make the connections, and then that connection, and then that connection. And
Yeah.
then that's how you progress and learn and grow, is that people kind of neglect that aspect when they're trying to learn about something. If you think you know, you don't know. And if you still think you know, then you really don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how I kind of approach things and approach life and approach teaching, people from the ground up that have, none of the foundational knowledge that they need to be able to understand the more complex concepts when you get higher up in your spiritual journey, and you're trying to wrap your mind around quantum physics and string theory and all of those things that play into this realm that we're living in and operating from. It's very important that you know where it all started and where it began.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I like to approach things. Revisit them, relearn them, figure out what it is that you need to, like, when somebody comes to me, I'm like, okay, there's this handful of things that I always tell people, and I know they don't understand it when I'm telling them. Meditation / yoga, okay, very important. Numerology, astrology, and sacred geometry. I always tell all of my students, like, that's where you need to start, and the elements. So it's like, okay, if you understand these things pretty well, then when you start to study things and figure things out on a deeper level, those things are
incredibly important.
They're incredibly important to understand the higher concepts, the subjects, things that they need to learn, stuff like that. So generally, if you come to me for that, I'm going to send you in that direction, because that's where all of the you have to know those things before you're going to understand anything at a deeper level.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I realize when you say that one of the things that I think where my reading of tarot struggles is right now. I think I need a deeper grasp on numerology. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been in metaphysics for a while, so yes, I've been on numerology, and like, yes, I know my numbers. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's time for a revisit. There's something, and I can't even describe it. It's just something that I can tell, like, I know that if I go back and I study numerology for a bit, it's going to strengthen my tarot reading. And I can't tell you why, but when I'm thinking about what can I do to be a better reader, something like numerology is the thing that comes up that's like, you know what, I need to revisit. And I don't know if it's because I couldn't figure out what 6 was the other day, and I had to look it up, and that was kind of like, seriously, Kesha, facepalm. But it was just like, no, I think there's something going on where it's time for another revisit. And the funny thing is, I was like, okay, let me just go. Let me
grab some books.
Yeah, let me find something. Not one numerology book is on this shelf. And I'm like, but I know I had, and I mean, I had a good 7 or 8 books that I know for sure were on this shelf. Mm-hmm. And there must have been something in that last culling where I thought, no, I know enough. I know that I don't need the book. I can let it go. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And now I need to revisit. And I'm not upset about, okay, I might go buy a couple of books. I'm probably not going to get the same books, because why would I do that? And I'm not upset that I have to get more books. It's more like, oh, what an opportunity. I hadn't thought that I needed that, but apparently I do. Like, there's something that's come up and I need to just revisit. And I probably, I like to shop at used bookstores, so hopefully I'll find some.
Me too. Oh my God, I'll spend hours in those.
Yeah, I need, the used bookstore is the better opportunity to find something that's
not mainstream.
Yeah, like, so a used bookstore for me is like going to all of the masters who've decided to share a little bit. Mm-hmm. And they've got like wild shit that you'd never find anywhere else, or even know what to look for, or where to look, or know that it exists. And that's the magic and the beauty of a used bookstore. But yeah, I'm like, I need to revisit numerology, and that's where I am right now. And that's kind of cool. Like, it's nice to know I don't know everything, but I'm still a great reader. I still know enough. But I want to know more. I just want something. I don't know. I just want to know it deeper, and that's going to be the next thing I look into. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, that's basically like, when somebody comes to me, I always start them out with those subjects and
Hmm.
then grow from there and see how far, they can get with that, and then how those subjects will open up a myriad of different, you know, areas for them to really learn and study and grow. And I always throw paranormal in there too, because that has been, people don't realize how much the paranormal world has an effect on
Hmm.
your spiritual path, because at a certain point you're going to start having experiences, and you're going to start realizing what the paranormal is really all about.
Hmm.
and and that it is all within you, and that you are projecting it out into your environment. And there's things that are going to start to come up that are going to feel paranormal or supernatural, or that's kind of, out of there. I always put that angle in there too, because usually people, a lot of my clients, I'll be like, so how long you been seeing stuff? And they're like, how did you know that? And I was like,
Because
you wouldn't be seeking
with me,
this
yes.
if you didn't realize that that was, an
Yeah.
integral part of the process of your path, of why you're questioning things in the first place, is because you've got otherworldly things going on, and this ain't it.
Yeah.
And
And
you
it's
need,
funny too, like when people come up to you, like you can ask them something that's like direct and pointed like that, and people don't realize how much of themselves they're telling about you
hmm
by them coming up to you and asking you these questions.
hmm
Because, yeah, you wouldn't, someone's not going to be drawn to you to ask that question unless they're seeing things, unless they're ready for you to be able to talk to them.
hmm
Um, and and the converse is also true. People can tell you a lot about where they are by how they move away from you
hmm
and how they don't respond. Like that was something that was interesting last week at the metaphysical thing. Um, I was talking to a woman and she was trying to get me in on this other person. And I'm like, okay, but whatever. And she was asking me about me, and I think it was to find a way to draw something about me out that she could relate back to this other person. You know what I mean? So it's
hmm
one of those. But she was also genuinely curious and looking for the next thing.
hmm
And, I was talking to her and I could see like she wants to grab onto what I'm saying, but at the same time she recognizes, oh no, no, no. I'm not ready for that level of seriousness. Like
hmm
I'm not there yet. And I'm just like I'm okay with that. Like
yeah.
I think that it was beautiful that she wanted to ask me questions because she was genuinely curious and wanted to know. I forget what we were talking about, but she wanted to know some things. But she also like moved away, you know,
hmm
because that medicine was just a little too powerful.
yeah.
And that's okay too. Like I I'm very comfortable with that because um well you don't want to drag you don't want to be teaching somebody you have to drag kicking and screaming,
No,
right?
no, that,
Or
yep.
or have to convince them of the thing,
Yeah.
which is not to say that I wouldn't entertain skeptics. I mean, I think everyone, like, again, we go back to discernment. I
Yeah.
expect that you're going to ask questions and try me and test me and whatever. But there's a difference in someone asking questions because they're genuinely curious and they're trying to understand versus them asking questions to prove you wrong. And
Yes.
I think
hmm
one set of people we welcome with open arms because how else would you learn if you don't ask questions and you're not curious? We're all
right.
curious. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But when someone's not going to be curious and passing judgment at the same time, fuck out of here with that nonsense. Like
Yeah.
we just,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the exact same way. Girl,
man.
I feel you. I feel
Yeah.
you. I run into I mean, when we work with the public, we see all different kinds.
Yeah.
And I can always tell who's serious and who's not. And I don't know how many times, especially like just in the last 6 months, random meetings, I'll be at the shop and somebody will come up to me and start speaking my language. And I'm looking at them like, where the fuck did you come from? For just like as an example, I was at the shop. I had this young kid walk in. He came in. He was looking around, and he walks up to the counter and he goes, "Hey, I don't know, how you're gonna take this, but I'm in college and I'm working on a thesis and I'm working on this project." And I don't know if you know anything about Hermetics or the Kabbalah, but could you, tell me a little bit about that? And I'm going, who is this cat? How the hell did
Does it-
he? And that happened
How
to
does a
me.
student just walk right up to the teacher and ask, "Do you know about this?"
And I'm like thinking to myself, how does he know me? Has he seen my Instagram? Does he I was like, have we met before? Do you know me on social media? He's like, no. He's like, I thought, I just came in here seeking something and I just was drawn in here. I had to come in here, and he's like, I just wanted to ask you if you could explain it to me a little bit because I'm new to the subject, but I really want to know about it, and can you explain all that to me? And I'm thinking to myself, how does this dude know? And it blew my mind, blew my mind about, and that's been happening to me a lot. Like, out of who walks into a shop, an oddity shop,
Hmm.
and just starts talking about everything that I'm super passionate about, and that's my whole world. Like, am I manifesting this? Am
Yeah.
I drawing this in? Is this like, and that's another thing that people don't kind of really understand, or it's not on their radar, that whatever is going on in, internally with you, you will start to manifest these things out into your reality. It's a byproduct of your practice.
Yeah. What you
Like,
focus on expands. And so
yeah,
and it expands not just in terms of how big it is, but expands from being within you to being outside of you. And, you know,
yeah,
a quiet thought becoming a full-blown conversation.
yeah,
So yeah, where you are, that, it's going to be there too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was crazy. That was crazy. But okay, I guess we'll end it here. I definitely would like to obviously keep working with you and talking
Yeah.
about this stuff. Hey, you guys, if you have any questions, you have any ideas, any subjects that you want us to cover, if you want us to talk about something specific, or you have any kind of questions, I know both of us are totally open for that. We love to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
This is our lifestyle. This is what we are passionate about. I hope you guys have gotten something out of this, that you can kind of see it from a different perspective from our end. Um, and and I really wanted to do this so that people seeking readings would really understand what's going on behind the scenes and see it from our perspective, so that you might know what to expect if you come for a reading with us, or if you're seeking any kind of guidance or answers. Like, this is what it's like for us. So I wanted to, be able to let people see that side of it, and know what to expect, and know what's real and what's not, and use your discernment. That's the word of the month, is discernment, when you're seeking these answers or seeking guidance. So Kesha, thank you so much again. I look forward to doing this again with you here, probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I really, really, really enjoy working with you. I respect you so much,
Me too.
and I loved talking with you. So just once again, tell everybody, if they want to get a hold of you for a reading, how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. Send me a text at 321-375-9837 saying, "Keisha, I'd like a reading." And I'll walk you through the screenshot for payment, and then we'll get started. You can find me on Instagram at textarot, and you can find me on YouTube at Wealth of Myself. In
Yes.
fact, I'm going to be doing a video. I got to film a video today, so
Oh,
I'm
all right.
excited to.
Oh, Great. I'm glad to check that out. I love your work. I watch your content when it comes out. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so
I watched your video on eclipses last week, and you are such a teacher. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there were a couple moments where I was like, do I need to be taking notes? Like, I just felt and it was so accessible because there was so much talk about
mhm,
eclipses that was kind of like either very very general so that everybody could understand,
mhm,
or the other side like very specific. But you
mhm,
were right in the middle with giving that sense of like, this is easy and accessible, but there's a lot going on here. And I
mhm.
just felt I really really enjoyed that. So yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
I'm watching your videos in the background.
Thank you. I love that. I love that so much. I really appreciate that support. Guys, if you're not subbing to her over on YouTube, please do so. She's got some fantastic content. She walks you through meditations, does readings. I mean, it's it's amazing content. You guys are really missing out
Oh,
if you're not
thank you.
subscribed. So please go over there and do that. And if you haven't subscribed to me yet, I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. My goal is to reach as many people as possible to help them get through their tough spiritual path. Believe me, I know how tough it is. I'm
Yeah.
going through a low point right now myself. Ebbs and flows, baby. I mean, that's what it's about. But all right, guys. So we will see you next time. Here in a couple weeks, we're probably going to do this again. You're going to see us regularly. So get used to seeing our face.
Look at that.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
See ya.